Hello. Welcome back to Falling Forward with Dan Lasac, episode 34. Dan Lasac, that's me talking. Hope you're all staying well, staying safe, and staying the fuck indoors. None of that conga line bullshit for you lot. This week's episode is great, basically. I'll just say it now, I'll just say it up front. It's a great episode, you should listen to it. Well, you already are, but you know what I mean. It's a very open and honest conversation with game developer Edmund McMillen, who's responsible for at least 2 of my top 10 games of all time. And between Bumbo, Binding of Isaac, End is Nigh, and Meat Boy, it's probably taken 5,000 hours of my life. And those 5,000 hours I'm not going to get back. But I'll be honest, I don't want them back. I'm very happy with the way I spent that time. And thankfully it was a very frank conversation. Usually when someone's promoting something, Edmund's currently working on the Tapeworm card game Kickstarter, so he's got to plug that. We make sure we get it plugged. But often that's all the conversation becomes about. But no, this went everywhere. This went into old work, new work, future work, but also the things behind that, which I was really grateful for, because I do genuinely worry when someone is currently promoting a thing that's all they're going to talk about, and I want these conversations to be more than that. But no, it was everything, which is dope for me. And you'll, once you listen to it, go, yeah, no, Dan, that was very good. I expect tweets on that. But definitely check out the Tapeworm Kickstarter or the Dick Knots website, and you should look up Dick Knots up on YouTube as well. I'm not going to explain what it is, I'm just going to say Dick Knots over and over again. Anyway, to the plugs. This week's music comes from the Circular soundtracks that I made for Mike Bithell. They're on my Bandcamp, and I'm playing those entirely just in case some form of game developer wants to check out Edmund chatting and then stumbles onto me. Oh, this Dan Lasac guy makes video game music. We should check him out. He sounds like he's desperate and cheap. So yeah, marketing, guys, marketing. If you want to support the podcast, either jump onto my Bandcamp. There's like 8 albums on there now, with a 9th dropping on June 5th, danlasac.bandcamp.com, or jump over to patreon.com/danlasac, where you get no perks, no benefits at all. Nothing. You get nothing except knowing that this podcast exists because you give me money. So do that as well. Really good at selling myself and the things I do, guys. I think that's everything I wanted to say. Yeah, it must be it. Rate, comment, and subscribe, or whatever you do on podcasts. Tell your friends. Enjoy the conversation. No, seriously, it's starting now. Enjoy. It's really loose. It's really informal. So
don't tell anybody, but I'm also loose and informal.
That's where we'll start. I'll just cut in on that line. That's perfect.
Just tell me when you want me to start recording in Audacity.
Yeah. Hit record. Go for it.
All right.
You've missed so much gold already.
Well, if your audio is good on your end, you got it.
Yeah, the whole remote recording makes me super paranoid. You just don't want to miss anything.
Yeah, I know. I've heard that. I've heard that many times.
Have you had a lot of Zoom calls? Is this been your life lately?
I mean, not specifically Zoom. My daughter's school did Zoom stuff, or tried to, but like our schedule flew away. Like we were actually in quarantine for a week before everybody got locked down. Yeah, because my wife was sick and our daughter was sick. We might have gotten the coronavirus. We don't know. But we were both really sick. And then I got sick right after that. But yeah, we think there was 2. It was like 10:30 were the Zoom calls for her school. And she did 2. And by that time, 10:30 was way too early for us. And now we're waking up at 2. So, I mean, this is kind of expected. We've had a crazy schedule for forever. Like, I think ever since I started just not having a real job, which was probably in like the mid 2000s, our schedule just floated away. Like it goes with whenever we feel like waking up, and And we usually fix it whenever there's if there's some sort of upcoming thing that we need to be at early in the morning, then we just stay up really, really like for 2 days and flip the schedule around.
It sort of seems to be a thing with gaming anyway. Like anything gaming related seems to be something that happens in the dark. So,
yeah, I mean, if you're a hardcore gamer or a game developer, you're probably used to very unhealthy lifestyle choices. So it's one of the ones that I'm guilty of.
I think being the other side of the pond, you end up playing with Americans because there seems to be an American out there playing whatever game you want to be playing.
Yeah.
So 5 a.m., you're just there with someone from like Virginia shouting at you for not shooting a specific thing, which is good. It's a good part of your life to be in, to be berated by men from Virginia. Sorry, this is getting personal. I should save this for therapy.
Well, yeah, I mean, I understand. I'm currently working with, we're so all over the place. So yeah, sometimes it's difficult to sync up with everybody, but it happens.
We should say your name at the start. So listeners,
Edmund.
This is Edmund. I just found him on the internet, on the forums. And we should, before we even get into it, we should get the plug in.
All right.
Let's plug what you're doing now. Because people switch off, they get 20 minutes.
Yeah, for sure. You got to get them. You got to get them before we get real boring.
Yeah. Oh, we've missed the opportunity. Damn. We failed.
Yeah, I'm Edmund McMillen. I made a bunch of video games. Most people know me for Super Meat Boy and The Binding of Isaac. I've done this. I'm working on a Kickstarter. It's the second Kickstarter I've done for a physical card game called Tapeworm. And there's also an extra naughty version of it called Dick Knots.
Oh, so that I haven't watched the YouTube video. I intended to watch it. There's a note there for Dick Knots.
No, you got to watch it.
And I didn't watch it. So I'm going to have to watch that afterwards now.
It's honestly my favorite part of the Kickstarter. I really like, it's pretty fun to work. So I'm working with a company called Studio 71. They're a corporate company, and they usually represent YouTubers, like influencers and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And ages ago, they approached me. Somebody there who is no longer there was like a really big fan of mine. They wanted to work with me on something, and they're like, "Hey, how about is there any way we can just license the IP for Binding of Isaac?" And I was like, "No, that's totally not going to happen." They're like, "We just want to make a board game or whatever else." I'm like, "That sounds like a terrible idea. No." And then like a year later, I was sick. I was sick with the flu. I was really bored, and I wanted something to do. And it just popped into my head. I was just like, well, if I did make, like, could I make The Binding of Isaac into a board game? And it's like, well, maybe like a card game, like something like Magic or something like that. And I was thinking about it, and it all kind of just started coming together, and it started to become fun. And then within a day, I was prototyping it with my wife. We were playing, 1v1. And a week later, I just called him. I picked him back, I didn't pick up the phone. I picked up an email. I wrote an email, and I was like, hey, I picked up the email, and I said, hey, is the offer still on the table? Because I do not want to deal with any of the business side and production side of this at all. Yeah. That was a nightmare that I wouldn't want to cross.
I can't imagine the levels of intricacy that go into it. Like,
I don't even want to think about it.
Any form of physical manufacture. Because there's a point at which you press a button and that's it. You can't change it now. This is being pressed. Like, people are making this physically.
That doesn't worry me as much because I've got a lot of eyes on it. And I'm really anal about that sort of stuff. But just the logistics of the production, of the financial side of things, of making something worth it, getting stuff shipped, getting a warehouse to hold the stuff that's being shipped, freighting it, card quality and all that stuff like that. Like, I don't want to know about this. It's just like going into game design. I remember when I started making Flash games, I started out with, trying to learn some scripting. So I knew some basic programming. And the moment I started working with a programmer, I was like, good, because I never, ever wanted to learn how to do this. Like,
I'm done.
This is not something for me. I'm not going to do it. It brings me no joy. So that's the whole point of working with Studio 71. But the funny thing about this now is the fact that I get this sick pleasure in knowing that I'm pitching these completely inappropriate things to this stand-up company who does stand-up things, and like my guy there, his name's Javon. He has to go and get approval from the heads of the company for things. And he literally has to go in with documentation showing, okay, well, so we're going to try to do this thing. It's called dick knots. And here's what the dicks look like. And this one has a foreskin, and then they dock and like, and he has to get all this approval that it's, make sure it's okay to put a Studio 71 brand on it. And somehow that
I can just see some old accountant guy just in that meeting nodding like,
yeah, it feels like
that must mean something to the kids.
Yeah, all these kids are dick nodding these days. It's like YouTubing. It's fun. It's fun. I mean, honestly, I do the Kickstarters because it's fun. Like the financial gain. The last Kickstarter I did, the Four Souls Binding of Isaac card game Kickstarter, made like almost 3 million, and people are like, "Holy shit, that's crazy!" And it's like, well. My take of that in the end is very small.
It was like 20.
Like I ended up making as much. I ended up making as much as the artists that I paid, got paid, which is it's fine because it was super fun, and I can still make profit, on the back end. Like if it actually post Kickstarter, you can make more of a profit off of that.
Yeah,
because you're basically ordering in bulk to get it cheap. But
why Kickstarter in the first place? Because you've obviously had a few successful games. You've got a name that can get you into a room of someone that would pay for it if you wanted to go that way. What's the attraction more with Kickstarter? I think
it's the campaign, like the fan interaction. Like it really is like, I can't tell you, like it's really fun. Like I have such fond memories of the first one, and I'm loving this one. I don't know what it is. Like it's I don't know, like the closest thing I'd come to going on tour, if that makes any sense.
No,
like,
that makes sense.
There's some sort of like very social, very interactive, very thinking on my feet, improvising and having fun and interacting with people and like riffing back and forth on it. Like some people give me shit. They're like, you've had success. Why didn't you just print this yourself and sell it? And that's definitely something that we can do. But realistically, Kickstarter is used for two things now. It's mostly used this way. Like you look at like Gloomhaven, and Gloomhaven was a huge game that they just made a sequel to, and it broke all the records, made like $13 million. They didn't need to do a Kickstarter. It's like, but doing the Kickstarter, they broke records and made more money than they would not. So it's Kickstarter is mostly used as a way to gauge how many people are down with this product. So how many copies of this should we make? And it's also a way when you go over what you assumed you would make, then you can supplement and give people extra cool things. And that's why people do it. I mean, Kickstarter is obviously still used for people with rough ideas that they want to flesh out, but I would never go to Kickstarter with an idea. You know what I mean? Like I always swore up and down I would never use Kickstarter to kickstart a video game because that's such a terrible idea. I would never want to be under the eyes and have the responsibility of executing something the way a bunch of, thousands of people want. I want to make what I want to make, and that's it.
And you do see game Kickstarters go horribly
for sure.
wrong. Like, as the money rolls in, people go, "Oh, we can add multiplayer," but you didn't need it. You didn't need to be in there, guys. And it just expands and expands into.
For sure. Yeah. And I know quite a few people who have never released their Kickstarter games that got fully funded, and they look back and they feel like that's the biggest regret of their lives. Like they are constantly being called scam artists. They're constantly, shit just goes wrong all the time. But for something like this, like I would never go into the situation if I wasn't 100% positive that all this stuff already works and it was already ready to go. Like we can almost print it. I mean, now, so our goal was 25,000, and I think we hit like 100. I don't even know. We broke that in like the first 3 minutes of the Kickstarter being open. And then we always talk about like what would we be happy with finishing? What would enable us to unlock XYZ if we did hit this goal, hypothetically. And for me, it was like if this game makes $100,000, I that would be okay. That would be okay for me. And if it made 250, then it would be amazing. Like that would be great. Then I'd be totally happy with it. And we're sitting at like 615,000 and we have like 3 weeks left.
Nice.
So I did not expect this at all. I mean, it's not Isaac, you know what I mean? Like, and I tried so hard to make sure that the Isaac people would, like, I put in a bunch of promos that tie the games together just to get those people in hopes that, like, that maybe that would entice people to play this game. But it turns out people actually really like the concept of Tapeworm, and it's selling kind of by itself. So we're getting a lot of this pushback saying, like, don't know who the fuck Edmund McMillen is. I don't know what the Binding of Isaac is. You know, what's all this?
We've joked about Dick Knocks, but I can imagine Tapeworm being played by kids. Like it reminds me of stuff me and my cousin used to play, and it was actually the first time in a while when just like flicking through the Kickstarter, I hadn't really thought about those sorts of card games like Uno and stuff.
For sure,
and it's been so long since I'd played anything like that. Literally, last time I played anything real world was probably Scrabble with Andrea, and she cheats.
That's a good game.
She cheats. She uses American words. They're not allowed. I'm English. I play English Scrabble.
What American words are there that aren't? Because I mean, obviously we speak English too, so we speak all of your words.
Do some simplified spellings and stuff. You know, you can get color without the U and things like that. That's just cheating.
Yeah, and like gray with the A versus the E.
Yeah.
I still feel like you guys have more. We have more words. You have definitely more slang words. How come people over there say I need, like, I'm going to go to hospital instead of the hospital?
I've never noticed that, but we do
like
that.
I gotta go to Lou. I gotta go to university.
We say university. I would say the Lou. I would definitely
you'd say the Lou.
The formal Lou. Yeah, I wouldn't use that casual Lou for any sort of toilet ablution. You know, I think you got to keep that formal. You got to take that very seriously. How do you find the difference between the workshopping and building a physical game to a video game as such?
Video games are really hard to make.
They do seem to be.
Yeah, I would say video games are stupidly complicated. They require so many. I mean, obviously, like in large companies, they require hundreds of different people to be all the different parts of the brain in order for it to work and come out okay. And if you're independent, you've got 2 or 3 people that act as many of those moving parts as possible and attempt to put it all together. It's just video games are a stupidly complicated art form. Like I always say, like I honestly think it's by far the most complicated art form because it's just as complicated as movies, except there's interactivity. Like it's most at its most basic, video games are movies with interactivity. So that's already more complicated than a movie. And my argument is, video games shouldn't even be utilized as a, you don't just reference a movie to make a video game, because the interactivity and the design of the game is actually where it's at, like what makes a game a game. So it goes even further with that. And I think we're just kind of scratching the surface on what we can do with game design and interactivity. But it's the difference between making a digital game and a physical game is night and day. It's just design. Like it's almost, I can make this by myself and I can play test it with my friends and family. And
I suppose
I can have fun doing it, and I can edit on the fly. It's not like taking something to a convention and watching a bunch of people stumble over badly designed elements and then having to go spend 2 months, fixing those core mechanics. It's literally, hey, let's play with, the black worm multiplies all of its abilities now. Let's see how that works. Oh, it works well after 5 minutes of play. Okay, well, now we're going to play, when you make a ringworm, you discard 2 cards instead of 1. And how's that work?
You can literally just draw the cards as well.
Yeah, and I did. Yeah, it's just pieces of paper. Like, card games are super easy, really fun right away. It's the social dynamic is vastly different than a video game, even online a video game. Like, being able to read faces, being able to just see body language and stuff like that it's pretty cool. And the pressure of being in a real world environment and having to choose things on the fly and try to make, good decisions is
I just had a
sometimes
horrible
difficult.
vision of playing COD online whilst seeing everyone you're playing with. Can you imagine the abuse that would go on with that? It would just be close up of dude's junk. Like, just
Yeah. I'm positive that has happened, and and that's why they don't have the webcams anymore.
yeah, they just tried it out, and everyone in the office was, nope, yep. Dave got his dick out.
My cousin works for Sony, and they are been pushing like the streaming, via PlayStation. You just press a button and you can start streaming with your webcam. He says, "Oh my God, it's like every day it's people having sex on cam and beating off on cam, and they are constantly just like shooting them down.
Yeah,
like they just have people monitoring them at all times.
We have special websites for that. You don't need to do it on PlayStation."
The only thing that I think is really surprising these days is I remember, back in the day, like not but 7 years ago, people would just the N-word was constant, and people were just trying to say as many terrible things as they possibly can. And I play Overwatch daily with my wife, and I don't ever hear shit. Like sometimes people will say "you retard," and that's the heat of it, and then they leave. But it's pretty surprising how tame things have gotten. And it could just be that I'm playing Overwatch, or it could be that people have cracked down a bit more and kind of fixed the toxic aspect of online multiplayer.
I do think a lot of our abuse we throw about, we don't really fully understand why we should and shouldn't use certain words. Although online can be a bit too policed at times. Like, often all it says is, you know what that word means, yeah? You know what you're saying there. And that person might think, actually, yeah, no, I'll say something else. I'll call you mama slut instead. How is that better? Is that better for you?
It is. It's always been very amusing to me because guys especially, like if they can't be physically intimidating to somebody, they will really try their best to say the worst possible things. I think that's something that a lot of people don't really understand. Is sometimes aggressive guys, if they can't be intimidating, they will try.
Yeah, they'll
to be as offensive as possible. To try to, they're trying to shape a fist with words, and they will just say those things, and then they will run away.
I used to stream on Twitch a lot, but when you had like a shitty troll come into chat, sometimes take that opportunity to be a dick to them, because you've been given permission by them being a dick first.
Yeah,
and I remember once I'd just gone off on this. I can't remember what I was playing. I think I was playing like Horizon Zero Dawn or something, and this kid was being really, really very angry about it being SJW propaganda or something, and I was just like, all right, yeah, it's about the future where it's an ecological disaster, it's fine, it's a good game. Look, robot dinosaur, come on, enjoy it. But I ended up like, instead of insulting him, I just said, you're gonna die alone. Look, you're pushing everyone away. You're gonna die alone. And there's just all these little sad, because obviously Twitch has Isaac's face, Bible thump.
Yep.
They're just coming in. I'm like, oh, I've actually said something quite harsh there. I've just told this stranger on the internet that I might have said die alone, covered in his own spunk, but I don't know. I understand that urge.
Oh man, I'd be a terrible streamer, man. I've like, back in the day, I've either I've become more calm or people have become more of a joke. I don't know what it is, but like back in the day when people would push me, I would hit back as hard as I possibly could, and even to other developers and stuff. And there were a lot of fucking shit talkers back in the day. It really seems to have died down recently, and I don't know if it's just, I don't know what it is. It might be that I don't punch back anymore. I don't know. But I used to fight the press, man. I used to get fucking pissed and call people out. I had an incident with a guy who was local. This is what blew me the fuck away. That this fucking guy came to my house. I let him into my house. He interviewed me. He was a much older guy. And we got on the topic of piracy. And just the simple question was like, do you think, what are your opinions on piracy? Do you think it hurts developers? And I said, I don't think so. Like, I really don't. I don't think it does, especially if your game is good, because, you know, those people aren't going to pay for your game, period, ever. But there's a high probability that they like your game and they tell somebody else about it, because you don't go around advertising that you just steal shit all day.
No.
They'll just say, hey, this game's really good. And just a guy that says, hey, this game's really good, that might equal another sales at some point. And I thought it seemed pretty fucking logical. And that was all I said. And then he wrote this story that says Edmund McMillen wants you to steal his games. And it's just like,
no, that's not what I said.
How do you? That's the headline. That's the salacious headline. And I remember thinking, I went to his office and I said, "What the fuck are you doing?" I didn't say this. Why are you putting your opinion? And then he has all these opinions. He says something that like a statement because he recorded it. So it's my statement and then his rebuttal after the fact. So I can't respond to his, and it's like, what the fuck? How have you been in this industry for so long and you're writing this shit where you're just like putting in your own 2 cents, you know, post interview. The interview's supposed to happen there.
Yeah. You can't.
And it's just like, I guess what
you can't add things afterwards. You're not allowed to.
Yeah.
That's not how conversations work, you know?
I got him to edit it, but I mean, it was like 10 hours after the fact, and people had already shared that headline a million times. And yeah, and it doesn't matter either way. I honestly don't fucking care. But like, it was the fact that guy had the balls to come to my house, do this interview. I made time for him, and he had to be a total dick about it for no reason other than the fact that he wanted to really make this salacious headline.
Yeah,
I'd like to think that stuff is dying, but I don't think it is. It's like
to twist it for clicks. It seems like a silly thing to do because it's not going to generate like vast amounts of revenue, no matter who you are. You know.
I know. I've been doing the run. Hitting up as many people as possible in the just general video game press and being like, hey, can you mention the Kickstarter? And I've heard from multiple people, like, basically tell me, like, I hate to tell you this, but news stories, like actual news stories, just like, hey, this game came out, or hey, this Kickstarter is happening, just news. That doesn't happen anymore. They don't pay. It's literally that. Like, they've seen that basic news, just, you know, information that people would like to know. Like, hey, this developer released this and this is on sale, you know, any of that sort of stuff. They don't do. They only do, you know, headlines that are eye-opening, you know, head-turning, the most salacious things possible, controversy and whatever else. Last time I was contacted about news, like, you don't even get, whenever I get an email from a press person, I go, shit, what the fuck happened? Because they're never just saying, hey, you want to come on our podcast, or hey, you know, we liked your game and we want to feature and whatever. It's, you worked with some guy who said something bad. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh God. Okay.
Not again.
Here we go. Yeah.
That's it is frustrating. But I think we've built this situation where we've built so much media that is ad funded that trying to just convince people to click on the link to go to the website is hard enough at this point.
I can only imagine what things are going to be like in 20 years. And I mean, maybe things will just turn around, you know, maybe things will implode and then, you know, creativity and art will reappear. I mean, I'd like to think that after all the virus situation, you know, finishes, that a lot of amazing comedy and great art will come out of it, because it's those kind of situations that breed, you know, good art in general.
Oh, I'm just hoping as well, like the strain this has put on some industries might make those industries realize that maybe doing it this way isn't the best way. Maybe clickbait adverts are not the way we should be funding what we do. And hopefully,
I mean, it would be awesome if that was true, but I have a feeling that the numbers.
I'm a dreamer.
go otherwise. Yeah.
I have too much hope.
Well, it's the same. It's honestly the same thing with this. Like, a lot of people are like, why, with Kickstarters, with a physical game, with overhead costs that just completely crush you, why do this? Why not just make it a digital game? Like, I could just spend the time I'm putting into this making digital games that sell way more and I make way more money because I get a huge chunk of it instead of a tiny chunk. And it's like, why do it? And it's like, well, that's because it's fun. That's it. And it's fun. I mean, and I feel like I'm at a point in my life where I just want to focus on the things that are fun. And I hate the fact that this is a business. It sucks. I hate the fact that I'm tainted by knowing that, caring about any kind of profit and viewing profit as success and that sort of stuff too. Like I hate that sort of stuff. Cause it always gets in the way of making art because you're always going to second guess yourself and think, well, sure. I could make this like the Binding of Isaac. I should probably put clothes on the kid, underwear, because more people it'd be more approachable to a majority if he wasn't nude. But the moment I start doing that is the moment I start losing sight of what I was trying to do, and the honesty is gone. And even to a minimal degree, I feel like people feel that in art. Like I think people feel that in video games in general. Like maybe I'm just hippy dippy about it, but that's just how I feel about movies and music and video games in general. I really think that,
like, you can see as a product, air quotes, gets bigger and bigger and more popular, it does seem that more compromises have to be made, like, for sure, to keep it on that level. It's this, I find it frustrating that we have this idea that everything has to have infinite growth. Like the next thing you do has to be bigger than the last. And it's like, well, but what if it isn't bigger? What if I want to record an ambient album of me like running through fields with cows or something? Like that's not going to be bigger than a hibbity hop album. I always wonder about the decisions that things they've decided not to make that maybe would have been beautiful, but they weren't allowed. Yeah,
that's why I really think people are so harsh with that stuff too. And I think that artists in general should get a lot more kudos for trying something new and taking risks, even if they fail. Like a lot of times for me, like when I take risks, just taking the risk is, in my mind, it already bumps the point score that I would give my own project in my head by 1. Like the big risk payoff, like, I don't know. Like you look at something like, I forget his name, the guy that made Katamari, Damacy. Like, I love that game. I love that game a lot. And will he ever make another game like that? Probably not. But he keeps making these weird games. I played his latest one. Didn't really like it, but I still think it's good because it's so unique and obviously so true to what he wanted to do. And I can still say that I would consider it a pretty good game, even though I didn't enjoy it that much. And I respect the guy for trying to do something different and not just trying to make another Katamari, but still put his spin and feel, on this. And it's definitely a challenge, I think, for a lot of developers to kind of do that. Like even I would, The Binding of Isaac is by far the most risky thing that I've ever released. I would like to take big risks like that again. I have a feeling that Mugenics will be another big risky one when it comes to the content and the gameplay and everything else. It's going to be super strange. Well, and probably turn a lot of people off. But
you're already going to open a door. You've already Mugenics/Eugenics. People are going to be digging for some sort of controversy. Just on that.
There's no doubt in my mind that it'll upset somebody, but I mean, that's kind of the point though. Like it's your
game. It's not their game.
It's saying some stuff. It's saying some stuff. And, I wouldn't doubt that a lot of people might get upset about things that are purposefully upsetting, but that's the point.
Obviously all your older stuff, like basically, all the old Newgrounds animation, the Dead Baby dress up and stuff is still there. How do you feel about that? Do you ever worry that people will go back and try to pull controversy?
Oh, like go back and find stuff that I've said or done, and I don't fucking care. They could try to bury me all they want. I don't try to hide anything I've ever said or done. And if I don't, it's just not a thing. Like I don't know. Like the stuff that I put in my stuff now is not that much further from stuff I've done in the past. Like, and a lot of people who know my stuff know that I've done some crazy shit. My comics were crazier than all that stuff too, you know. What are you gonna do? It's you know, I've grown as an artist. I think I've gotten better. I've gotten better at saying things, and I'm not an angsty teenager anymore. So I don't punch the same way I used to. This, you know, the stuff that I used to find funny, I don't find as funny anymore. And some things that I found funny then, like poop and stuff like that, I still find it's still very funny. So it's like I think you can. I think there's enough of a breadcrumb trail all the way back into my teenage years that people can follow and see the evolution and understand. You know, there's a reason. There's a reason for everything, but you can't stop somebody from trying to do something. But the cool thing is I'm not beholden to anybody. I don't work for anybody. So if they try to bury me, I'm not going to lose some contract deal.
Yeah, you're not going to fire yourself.
Like, I'm not going to get.
I'm sorry, Edmund. You're in front of the bathroom mirror just one morning. Sorry,
yeah,
we're going to have to let you go.
I would have to do something horrible. I don't even think. If I murdered somebody, I don't think Steam would pull my games off of the service. You know what I mean? Like.
Oh,
that's it. Like, I've got one major distributor. Yeah, I've got one major distributor, and that's Steam. And I've seen some hellish, most horribly controversial shit go up on Steam that doesn't come anywhere close to anything I've ever done. It's still up there. So I know for a fact that they're not going to dump me because I...
there is something weird. They said, like, listeners might not even know what Newgrounds was. Newgrounds was an animation and art. It's kind of like DeviantArt, but for Flash games in a sense. And but like anyone could do it. If you had Macromedia Flash, you could.
I would compare it more to YouTube.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I would say Newgrounds was the first YouTube. It was quite close. In fact, Tom was working on a portal that was exactly like YouTube. He was going to make a portal for videos that you could upload instead of just SWF files. So he was working on that before YouTube, but YouTube still ended up coming out, and I think he ended up canning it.
Yeah, once they were there, they were there. It was back in like the early 2000s, so it's like Lord of the Edgelords. It was back when people were sending each other Goatsy and you know, far before Rick rolling was the meme. You would send a gaping man anus as a joke. Yeah.
Everybody
now that's just Twitter.
Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty funny that I mean, things have changed, I guess, right?
Oh God, they have. Yeah, they've become more organized. They've all kind of, all those fractured little communities have been pulled into bigger places. You know, this is why YouTube's the most. When anyone talks about YouTube or Reddit, I find it funny when they say things like, "Oh, Reddit's really toxic." I was like, "Have you been on our flower arranging? It's delightful." You know, there's no toxicity there. It's just everyone going, "That's beautiful, Margaret. Is that a chrysanthemum? Lovely." You know, they've become so big. They've got their own communities within them. It's interesting actually, because I hadn't been on Newgrounds I mustn't have been on there for like 10 years, and I kind of came late to the internet. I didn't have any computer till I was like 20, so I'm 41 now, so I was a bit late, so I missed so much cool shit. But yeah, I remember Newgrounds because of being able to interact with things. It was like, oh, what? I can dress up this dead baby? That's crazy. You know. Yeah. But the weird thing about it made me notice that you talk about evolution, but you've got this thread that runs through all your work. Like how the dead baby we're talking about right now is Blue Baby, is in Isaac. Like how that carries through. And is that something you need to do? You know, things from like Pin from Meat Boy is in... Well, Meat Boy is in Isaac. You know, like...
Yeah.
Is that for yourself, or is that something that you just keep wanting to explore little ideas and evolve and iterate?
I don't know. I think I just really like tying everything together so it all feels like it's from the same world or nods to
the Edmund McMillen.
Back in the day,
universe.
I used to always, yeah. I mean, back in the Newgrounds days, I was really, really into wrestling, and I think I made a dead baby WWF dress up, and it was just so like I would pull in as many things that I loved and that were part of my personality, even if it was other IPs and stuff like that. I would always nod to something, and I did that a lot throughout. I mean, if you really just look at like Super Meat Boy is just my Super Mario Brothers, and Binding of Isaac is just my Legend of Zelda. Like I'm still just throwing back to my childhood and the stuff I grew up with that inspired me. And I mean, kind of the way Quentin Tarantino does with like old 70s grindhouse stuff. Like I'm just stuck back there. I'm stuck in that, like, back when I was in awe of video games and before the internet and all that sort of stuff. Like I can't help but pull from that, pull a lot from my childhood and childhood experience in general. So yeah, I just like putting as much of myself into my work, and sometimes a part of myself is a game I made 10 years prior.
Yeah.
And it's just like, hey, remember this? And it feels nice. It feels cohesive. And it feels serendipitous in some weird way. Like when doing Isaac and realizing, the story of Isaac was Isaac's going to suffocate in a box, and he was going to, when drawing that, it's like, he's going to be blue. Oh, wait, that looks a lot like the blue babies from the Dead Baby dress up. I'm totally going for it. Like that's going to be, I'm going to just call him that. And it just works. I just open myself up enough as possible when I'm making stuff and creating stuff to allow for stuff that feels serendipitous to come together and connect in neat ways, because it feels magical. Like creating art in general. I mean, you're a musician. It's like it feels like magic. Like when things just come out of nowhere. And then they cross paths, and then they kind of hit each other a little bit, and then it opens up this whole other. It becomes unique. It's like, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I think most artists can understand that. There's this, when creating something, there's this mental space to be in where you just open up, and everything just starts coming in from all directions, and you're kind of in there tying things together, and you're pulling all on the strings, and everything's moving, and all these gears are turning, and it's like, oh, it's this cohesive whole. And then you just go through and start repairing and correcting and tuning and tweaking these things. But that's what I love the most, and that's why I do this, because it makes me feel really good when I'm in that headspace. It makes me feel free. I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm not thinking about anything bad. I'm just in the moment, improvising and creating something that I feel is true to who I am, and that I think that if I like, other people will like. And that's as good as I could do.
The more pretentious of us would call that the flow state, where the art just flows from your mind. But I don't think either of us are that guy.
It's like, I'm gonna use that so I appear more pretentious.
Do you find that so people listen to this who maybe, because this podcast is not honed in on one thing, like there's going to be people who are here for music and thinking, they've been talking about dead babies for a long time now. You use cuteness. Like Isaac is cute, Meat Boy is cute, Gish is cute, Spewer's the cutest, especially in Isaac, his little voice.
Yeah.
Which is very similar to my partner's cat's voice. Weirdly, he's a very big cat, but tiny little voice. But is the cuteness because you enjoy it, or are you aware that you can get away with more?
Oh yeah. I'm doing it to get away with horrible stuff. Like horrible things. Like I remember before Isaac became a thing, and I would try to explain what I was working on to people, it sounded horrid. Like nightmarishly awful. Like I'm telling this tale of child abuse where a kid dies. He kills himself because he feels like he does not fit into this world. And he's playing out this escape from his mother in his mind as he dies. It's like, it's the most fucking depressing, horrible shit ever. Oh yeah, and by the way, he's naked. And he uses his sadness as a weapon against the demons and monsters in his head. And like pitching that to people, it's like, that sounds horrible. Why would anyone want to play that? Oh no, well, his eyes are really big. So he's cute. Yeah. and everything's fine. Everything's totally fine. And I think I do that in as much stuff as I possibly can. And it could be that I'm not comfortable with going all the way with that stuff. It could just be part of my personality where like, I don't want it to just be doom and gloom without some sort of comic relief. Like it's just not who I am. You know, I when something bad happens, I try to find some way to laugh it off or make light of it. It's just how it works for me. And, if I want to talk about something like that, I'm going to lighten the mood and I'm going to cute it up as much as possible to make it digestible. And again, it kind of goes back to me getting joy out of the Javon taking Dick Knots, the idea up to the studio head and explaining what exactly we're doing. It's the same sort of thing. Like I do derive some sick pleasure in knowing that I'm getting people who wouldn't otherwise experience something as weird or themes that aren't as, just off, by making good gameplay. You know what I mean? Like there's so many people who are going, I was like, I did not like the aesthetic. I did not like the themes, but I really like the gameplay. Well, I like that. I like the fact that you're experiencing some part of my existence in some abstract way, because I was able to execute gameplay well. Yeah. Because I could have made, realistically, I could have made it a more digestible, more for everyone environment with the same sort of roguelike elements, and it could have done a lot better. But who's to say? It's hard to tell now. Like, I'd like to believe that a lot of people went in to Isaac because it was so strange and so easy to talk about.
Yeah,
and so odd.
I wonder that if it had been more traditional, if it looked more like Smash TV or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we could compare it to if a large studio got a hold of the Isaac IP and made a better version, in air quotes, a better version, a sequel of the game that was more polished. They would go through it and they would instantly, I know the first thing they would cut, because I know, talking to ESRB, that this is the biggest no-no. You cannot have a child eating pills in a video game. That's so bad. That's like the top of their list. Like a child eating unknown pills and then gaining effects by them. That's super bad. And especially like injection stuff. So they'd cut that. They'd cut the pills. Yeah. And then they'd slowly whittle down the list of like, oh, like this feels a little icky here. And, let's do that. And it would come through, and no doubt it'd probably sell a hell of a lot more than anything that I had done myself. But it would slowly become less of what it is. And I think everything does that. You look at sequels to things, and like even I might be in the minority with this, but I really liked the first Doom, the first new Doom. Mm-hmm. I really loved it. I thought it was great. And then the new one came out, and it felt boring.
So I've not touched the new one because of how much I enjoyed Doom 2016. Like,
I loved it. I loved it. It doesn't make sense how they could, if they just did it exactly the way again, I would still love it. I would play through it again. There's something about it, and I cannot put my finger on it, but it feels boring. Like boring. Like I played the fuck out of the last one. Like I played through it twice. I love that game. And I cannot will myself to continue to play this one. It's just feels so bland and uninspired. I feel like I'm literally doing the same thing over and over and over again. And I'm being rewarded with items and things that I don't use. And I don't even know what they do. Like I'm gaining like the ability to punch through a bunch of guys, but I have to charge it up, and I don't know how it charges up. But then I've also got the ability to do a flamethrower to get ammo. And it's just like, what happened to just like, I was fine with just let's just add gory kills in order to replenish some stuff. So fucking great.
What I enjoyed about Doom 2016 was just that it felt at times like a puzzle game. Like,
Yeah.
I'm in this room, I've got X amount of resources. If I go this way, pick up the quad damage at this point, do you know what I mean? Like, it felt like I had to tactically work out what I was doing rather than just brute force my way through a level.
This always feels like brute force to me. Always.
Does it?
And then they put in platforming elements that aren't fun.
Yeah.
It because you're never going to do it via combat, right? They're never going to ask you to, it feels like Meat Boy. Like you're literally wall jumping off of things. It's so bizarre in a Doom game. You're wall jumping off of things, but there are these breaks. They're platforming breaks. So it's like, okay, you entered the arena, you killed all the bad guys. Now to progress to the next point, you get to do this really mind-numbing, because there's no real loss if you die from this part. So it feels just bland and uninspired. And like, I just don't, it's hard to put my finger on where they missed the mark, but all I can say is that it feels like they took all the stuff from the last game and they just jumbled it all together. And I just feel like in the last game, there were situations where it's like, oh, now you're fighting this guy and then a few of these guys. And then they introduce a new guy and it forces you to play differently. Mm-hmm. It doesn't ever feel like you're ever playing any differently in this game. It feels like they're all basically the same enemy, and they're almost all of them are the same from before, but somehow void. Like, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, you play it and then tell me, because I can't. I have such a hard time putting my finger on exactly why this isn't working anymore for me.
The weird thing is, you're not the only person who said this to me. Like, I've multiple people.
I'm glad that I'm not, because I've tweeted about it and people are like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I love the platforming parts. And it's like, well, I don't know. Maybe I'm losing touch with video games.
And it might also be it coming down to what other first-person shooters people play. If people are playing like modern COD games that have a lot more movement abilities, or if they're playing like Destiny or something that always has random platforming elements, like Destiny raids. Oh yeah, we're gonna give you a really obtuse, awkward platformer now. Good luck, you and your 6 friends. I think they're fully aware that the platforming is done in front of your friends, so it becomes funny when you keep dying. There is always that one thing that you're going to enjoy that maybe comes from somewhere else, Like, the reason I loved Meat Boy so much, and I've played hundreds and hundreds of hours of Meat Boy.
Me too.
Well, that's your job. You have to. You have to.
Yeah.
But, like, part of it was, obviously, like, Meat Boy comes from Mario, a game I never got to play until... God, I don't think I played Super Mario World till 10 years ago, which is 20 years after it came out, Yeah. So, how is that for you, to see other people, your audience, playing your games? Like with Meat Boy, I remember watching you call into a GDC. When GDC... No.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
GDQ, sorry, Games Done Quick.
Oh, that one. Okay, yes.
Yeah. And you were calling in and someone was speedrunning Meat Boy. And he's doing things and you're like, what? How did you just... like, how is that for you to see people not destroy your game, but use your game in unintended ways?
Super neat. Like, it's cool. It's cool that games are still loose enough for stuff like that to actually appear. It's kind of magical in a way, because I mean, me growing up with Nintendo, you would always hear those rumors about being able to do crazy shit, if you do this, if you do that, and I didn't even think that it was going to be possible, especially with Meat Boy. Like, there's so many weird things that people can do just because the programming is weird, like they can clip through the walls and stuff that kind of was duct taped in late game mechanic wise, like has some holes in it literally that you can pass through. And designing levels, I designed some things to make it easier for speedrunners to get through, because there's an optimal way that's just slightly harder, but they're just doing stuff that's that I have no idea was possible at all. And I think it's really cool. I mean, I love that whole speedrun community. I love making platformers. I remember I always said that I would never make another Meat Boy until I had some sort of amazing idea for one. And then, like about 6 years ago, I left Team Meat and I just kind of walked away from the IP, and literally within a week of walking away from it, I'm like, I need to make another platformer. Like, I can't.
And that's the end is nigh, yeah?
Yeah, that's the end is nigh. Which is funny because it's like if Meat Boy was a riff on Mario Brothers, then the end is nigh is a riff on Meat Boy. It's kind of strange how it works. I think the end is nigh is my best work by far, but I know not everybody's going to share that opinion. But definitely, like, looking at it, I just played through it during the first week of quarantine here. I played through it and I think we did a killer job. It's just definitely one of those games that's not for everybody. It's not remotely accessible as Meat Boy. It's way harder, and the subject matter and the situations, the mechanical situations that I put you through are purposefully stressful in a way that Meat Boy wasn't. Meat Boy was like had a sense of relief. The levels were really small, and you felt accomplished instantly because you felt like there's a marker. There's literally a marker for every complete level. With the end is nigh, it's grueling, and it's supposed to feel like it's never ending. Like it's never going to end. How hard is this going to be? Like, how much is this going to ask of me, and when is this going to be over? And then it purposefully uses stressors to keep your heart rate up, and just kind of fiddling with a lot of the stuff that I was playing around with Meat Boy, and making it really kind of not pleasing in a way. It's kind of a weird thing to like play around with, but
I just wanted to make a game that made you hate yourself. That was all.
I wanted to make a game that made people feel like how I feel, especially how I felt at that time, where I felt like, is this fucking worth it? You know what I mean? Like, should I be doing this? Is this I'm locked into this. This is the choice that I'm making, and this is a grueling end. And I think going in with Meat Boy was about challenging yourself for high reward. And the end is nigh is about challenging yourself, but then possibly questioning if the challenge is worth it. And how far you will go. It's kind of what drives somebody. Like, it's kind of the white whale. I wanted to kind of have that, like, how far will you go for this? And I really wanted to make a game that wasn't going to be completable by people, but of course it was in the end. Like, I don't know if you know, but the beginning of the game starts with a kill stream. Basically, it's like you're playing this impossible level while he's streaming it, and then you die, and once you die, the game starts. That's beatable. You could beat that.
Really? I did not realize that.
Yeah. Yes, and there's a level that it ends the game. You get a cutscene and you beat the game. So if you can beat that with one life without getting killed, and it's like a series of many levels. That's just the first level is the easiest. And we just put that in, and I made a little cutscene of him like wrapping it up. Oh, here's the stream for the day. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you tomorrow. Click, and it ends. And I'm like, no one's gonna fucking see this. There's no fucking way. I can't do it. There's no way this is gonna happen. And of course, within a few days, somebody did it, and it just seems unheard of.
I do think some people are genetically different. I can't.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, they definitely are.
Like, when you see someone like, I don't know, like Witwix when he was playing I Want to Be the Boshi, yet he's still reading chat at the same time, and like, how are you?
Yeah, that is nuts.
How do you do
I don't know how the fuck they do that. I saw a guy like perfect through the what is it called? It's a Guitar Hero song, Through the Fire and Flames or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, perfect that at like 4 times speed while responding to people subscribing to him. Yeah. And I'm like, and he's reading it. It's like, what?
That might actually be Witwix.
What is going on?
As well. Witwix was... I feel like he must have had 2 brains. Like, he can't have... There was some...
It's definitely a very specific personality type too. Because it's not only like I could see myself getting competitive and getting pretty good. I'm just not a competitive person, so I stop caring after a certain point, and it's just not worth it anymore. So it's like, not only can somebody do something so crazy, it's about doing it so many times to get that good. It's like the dedication in that is astounding. Like, Yeah, everybody's got to be really fucking good at something, and there's some really good video game players out there. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's just downright bizarre, but it's awesome as well. Although a lot of people will throw, "Oh, you're just sitting in your house playing video games for money," at Twitch streamers and stuff. I don't like. Yeah. It's if you want it and you want to be successful at it, it's work. Like it's 8 hours a day.
This is
like 7 days a week. You know, it's not.
I mean, I think we grew up idolizing rock stars.
Yeah.
Especially and that's what I think a lot of kids our age grew up and being like, that's what I want to be. Kids now, for the past 10 years, want to be streamers. That is the highest fucking point. That is their rock star point. My daughter, who is 4.5, I used to play with my Ninja Turtles, and I used to simulate a video game of Ninja Turtles. I'd grab, Raphael, my favorite Ninja Turtles, or usually I'd get Weapon X, the Wolverine Weapon X action figure that I had, and I would go through and I'd set up like all around my house all these different bosses and things to fight, and I'd fight all. That's what I do all day long. My daughter,
this is now
sits
this
in
isn't even when
this
you're
is now.
up.
Yeah. My daughter sits in front of an imaginary television, staring off into space, and says, "Hey guys. Today we're going to, and starts rattling on about nonsense to this imaginary viewer that she has or viewers. And I ask her what she's doing. She says, "I'm doing my channel." Like this is, say what you want about streamers and competitive gamers. This is the fucking future. You cannot turn away from it. Like kids idolize these people. They want to be these people. They want to meet these people. Like, it's a crazy situation. I could never think that people would want to watch somebody play a video game more than play it themselves, but it's definitely the case. I mean, even now, I just saw an ad on TV where it's becoming, especially because of the lock-in situation, since they can't make new television, what they're doing is they're literally paying celebrities to do commentary on, they're watching TV with you.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck is going on? But this is insane.
It's something to do with that access thing about, like, I think we maybe with any sort of celebrity, we raise them up as something different to us. So then having access to them. And I don't know, I think I'm going to use the word influencer. I don't like the word, but there is something about that influencer culture where it is access to people that we think have achieved or are in some way something to aspire to, and that's not a hugely negative thing. It's just the problem comes back to what you were saying earlier about money and art, that you go from that point where Twitch is just in .tv and it's just fun and these are honest, nice people, like GDQ when it was in just a tiny guy's basement sort of thing. And it gets to that point where it becomes a huge production, and we typically, as humans, we become very efficient at making money out of the people watching rather than giving them joy. And that's one of the frustrating things for me.
Yeah, it's the blend. It's the blend of art and business. I mean, say what you want to say, but people who are streaming are entertainers, and entertaining people. I mean, it's comedy, it's improv, it is art. Like their interactions with people and the things that they're doing is an art unto itself. And when you put business in it, you're going to move away from it, any kind of artistic freedom and relief, and just it's going to slowly become a more business oriented situation. You're going to lose steam. It's not going to feel good anymore, and you're going to slowly become. I mean, you see the burnout. You see streamer burnout. It happens all the time, and that's what it comes from. They're chasing this. They're chasing the money. They're chasing the streamer count. They're losing track of the thing that made them popular in the first place, which is being a genuine person and being entertaining. And they've got to figure out what to say or what to do in order to get people to stay, and how they have become beholden to the viewer, and sometimes it becomes an abusive situation where they are just being destroyed by the people that they depend on to help them pay the rent, which is a strange situation.
They have a weird relationship with games as well, because the amount of people you see who built a big audience off one game, who then
it's like you think Northern Lion wants to continue to play The Binding of Isaac. I kind of question that he actually has any enjoyment anymore when it comes to playing this game so many fucking times. It's but
I've got
that's what they want.
I've got 3,300 hours on Binding of Isaac on PC. If I brought in PlayStation and Vita, I'm probably in the 4,000 hour mark. But that
you should have been streaming it the whole time. If you were streaming, you could have been the next Northern Lion.
I should have been, but like that's
should have been doing
an hour here, an hour there. There's no way I could play it for 8 hours a day. It's just no matter how much I enjoy it, I would not last 2 months. There's no way.
Yeah,
I would just get bored, and not even like you would see everything in that amount of time, but just mechanically doing the same thing.
You can't. You'd lose your fucking mind. Like you would lose your mind. But yeah, I almost feel guilty. Like whenever we do a new DLC, when we said it was the end of it, I think about him and I think, oh no, he's gonna have to play this like 100 more times. Like, because so many there, and he's not the only one. There's like 7 or 8 streamers who like made their careers off of playing The Binding of Isaac. And whenever I do an update, whenever I do or say anything, they're bullied into playing, the game on stream. And it's like,
you've got like Richard Hammer, Cobalt Streak, people like that. Like Dix obviously wants to play fishing games. He doesn't want to play Isaac, but every time anything gets mentioned, like when Repentance, which is listeners, I forgot you existed. Repentance is the final Isaac DLC. He was instantly getting tweets, and he's like, "Are you going to play this, Dick?" And I was like, "I get it. I do get why people want to see it. They have this nostalgic memory, but at the same time, like, let the man move on."
Yeah, let people do things that they enjoy doing. I mean, that's got to be really tough, though. Like, I would not be a successful streamer because I would only do what I like to do, and my interests just move all over the place. Me and my wife used to do random streams just to fuck around and have fun way in the early days.
She plays a lot of Isaac, yeah?
Yep. Yeah, she almost exclusively played. There was a summer where, 7 years ago, she would start streaming Isaac, and this you could tell this is early days of Twitch, and then we would tell the chat that we were going to go to an adult web cam site. And we would just sit there and just talk about the different people on the adult cam website on stream. And we'd get away with that. It was good times. There were some interesting people on those sites.
I can imagine.
Made a few friends. It's a few legendary occurrences, but yeah, I mean, we would sometimes just stream just to stream, and then we'd stop, and then people are like, what happened? It's like, well, we moved on. And it wasn't fun anymore. And then we'd come back and do something else. And I could never do that. It seems like legitimately such hard work that in order to become successful at doing, you have to live it. It has to be an everyday thing, which I imagine would be very difficult for people that are in any kind of relationship.
Yeah. No, it's I think the only reason I got away with it for so long is because my partner lives in a completely different country.
I know. I have friends who met each other streaming.
Yeah,
and that's how they connected, and they started dating via stream, and then eventually moved in with each other. So I don't think it's an uncommon thing now.
Every time I've been to PAX, I guarantee meet one couple who were like, "Oh yeah, we met in Cobalt Streak's chat." Like, what's going on in there? It sounds sexier than you'd imagine it be.
Man, back in the day, like way back in the 2000s, when my claim to fame was "This is a cry for help," which is my website back then. There were multiple people that got married meeting off of that website, and they got tattoos and stuff like that.
I'm gonna be honest, I worry for them. I worry for them.
Yeah.
If that's
it was always a disaster. It always ended. None of them. Oh no, one of them or two of them are still together, and they became super religious. They're super Christians.
Oh
now.
wow.
Yeah. So I mean, that was back in the day that drew in the extremists for sure. So it's not. It's surprisingly not that hard to go from like one extreme to the next. I've seen people go from ultra far left and then swing. I don't know how. It must just not be that far over, all the way over to the right and become super racist and hateful.
I find it
mean.
like with YouTube these days, there's so many of the early like internet atheists who have become like complete misogynists and stuff just because weirdly the content drove them that way. The kids were like, yeah, we've heard all this atheist stuff now. There's no new religions. Come on, next subject. And they're like, all right, well, Anita Sarkeesian, let's talk about her. Yeah. And then they're having to be horrible bastards for the rest of their lives.
I know.
That's where the money is.
It's very weird to see that. I mean, really, it's just, if we want to get into conspiracy theories, I feel like around 2010, maybe a little earlier than that, both sides of U.S. politics started pushing hard to polarize as hard as they possibly could.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the pushing to women in general, like a lot of that pushing of like, look at you, you're not adequate in society, that sort of stuff, was kind of angled towards the Hillary campaign. Like, and then it didn't happen, and now we're stuck with like this polarized thing where a bunch of idiot guys got super fucking hateful, and a bunch of girls think that they are the most put upon people in the world. And it's like, I don't know what to do with this, but it's just getting worse. Like it's getting terrible. Like I just don't, I try not to get involved in anything political because I'm obviously very on the left.
Yeah.
But according to a lot of people on the left, I'm not. So it's like, I don't know what to do with that because I'm very on the left and I would never, ever come close to being middle or voting Republican. But
this thing,
according
there's
to
many,
the majority of people,
I think there's many lefts. There's many rights. You know, there's like, I think we've got it because of the polarization. We are like, well, you're not the same as me, so you can't believe the same as me. And it's like, I'm left wing, but I think I should be allowed to call you a cunt if I need to. You know, that doesn't make me less left wing. You know, politically, I still think we should have free education, but I like the word cunt. I enjoy it. It makes me feel good. It comes out of my mouth. It feels right.
It's just bizarre to me because, you know, that politics just makes things so black and white when that's not the case. It's like saying every Christian person is hateful and they think all gay people should burn in hell. Like that's not the case. That is not the case at all. Like everybody is an amalgamation of a bunch of different ideas. I'm quite positive. Like I have friends who are very, very, very far left who are gun owners, you know, and it's, well, okay. It's like, to even say like, to go out and say like, I think like I voted for Obama and Obama was really, really strict on immigration, like hardcore on immigration. And, I understand why. And for me to say that now puts me on the right. It's like to be like, I think we should have borders. I think it's important to have borders in order to, you know, protect and focus on protecting people within our borders somehow is a hateful thing. It's a terrible thing. It's just so.
It's that thing that people make a leap that if you think we need to protect people within our borders, that means you think that the people outside of our borders are evil, and that's not the case.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
We make these weird leaps, and I think you say like 2010s. We could wind it back to the 70s. You know, Thatcher, Reagan, 70s, 80s. They definitely made it a lot more about good versus evil. It became a less us and them thing. And now we've got the internet where there's lots of different us's and thems, you know.
For sure. I always view it as I have to think about this a lot now too, because my daughter will ask me things. My 4-year-old daughter coming back from like pre-kindergarten will say, Donald Trump is evil. And I'll say, how do you know who's Donald Trump? I don't know. He's a bad guy. I'm like, okay, I agree.
Wrong,
he's not a good guy. Okay. I agree. He's not a good guy, but I also don't want to generalize things for her. So like, I have to come up with some answer that makes sense. And all I can say is, oh no, she says, he's an idiot. He's stupid. It's like, well, technically he's not. He's very, very smart.
Yeah.
But he's very selfish. And that's the key thing to all this. And I think a lot of it comes down to people using words where it's like, you can call him a racist, you can call him an idiot, you can call him no, he's fucking selfish. That's it. He's hugely selfish, ultimately selfish. He only cares about himself and the specific goals that he has put in place. I think that's the most appropriate thing to call him. I mean, he can say fucking stupid shit for sure. I'm like, he says that shit all the time.
9 times out of 10, when he's saying something stupid, it's because he is trying to justify some selfish bullshit he did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like the last thing he did when he was like, hey, can we find a way to put, cleaning fluid in people and maybe get the UV thing going up inside people. Like he's deferring to this person, but he's acting like it's his idea just in case it works.
Yeah.
Like it's like, I just want to be the one, because if we could do that, that's my idea now. That's my idea. I have that idea.
I did like that.
It's so terrible to have a president
is there a way we could bring light into the body?
I mean, it's terrible because like on the surface, of course, there is some amount of logic to it, but he doesn't think to himself that, we're going to have people trying to get UV lights and shove them into their lungs. Like
people literally did.
How is this?
Like within days, there were people. Not. We're not talking to hundreds of people here, but
but of course. But yeah, I mean, I think we're beating a dead horse for sure here because I mean, anyway. But what I was trying to get to is I feel like the sides. When the downfall of the right is obvious, it's like it can be abusive, it can be mean, and it can be ultimately selfish. It's the person who looks out only for themselves and their family to the detriment of others. And then on the left, you've got people who are willing to selflessly give without caring about themselves. And I think that's the downfall of both. And you need both in order to have like a cohesive whole. Like you don't want to be taken advantage of because people will take advantage of you. You don't want to give everything you have. You want to be able to keep some and protect your family in some way. Like you want to have some amount of both of that. There's arguments on both sides that are, of course, pretty black and white. But for the most part, I think things are pretty gray and you kind of want to hover around the circle in the middle because you never want to go too far one way or too far the other because it's always bad. And there's always something, you're going to lose something here. And that's actually something that I didn't realize fully until I became a father, I think. And I started to have to make decisions and maybe be more selfish in some ways. I don't know. It's becoming a father has been an eye-opening experience on many, many different levels. And politically, it's definitely like opened my eyes to a lot of reasons why I think people feel certain ways.
This is the thing that does make me angry when people talk about people with different political beliefs being some way worse, or your average MAGA hat wearing Trump supporter is not evil. They're not waking up in the morning thinking, right, we're going to repress these people. We're going to do this. Yeah. They're waking up in the morning going, right, how do we put food on the table? Right, she needs new shoes. Right, we've got to get that sorted. Am I going to have work tomorrow? Sort of. They've got the same set of worries that someone with the complete opposite political views. And we forget it. We forget it all the time. And it's so frustrating because that whole time we're trying to make us feel different to each other. We might actually get somewhere if we looked at where we're the same, Yeah. We have the same basic needs. We all need toilet roll. Let's work out how we're going to get toilet roll to everyone at a fair price. Yeah. Maybe free. If we can do free, that would be great. Guilt-free.
I mean, it would be nice. It would be nice that if we came out of this with some sort of more united feeling in our countries. Like it should happen. This should be the thing that really makes us realize that regardless of what other people believe, that we're all in this together and that we need to work together to figure this out and make things right. Here's hoping, but
fingers crossed.
The people who are much smarter than all of us are going to make sure that the people who are below will have a lot of disinformation. And
Yeah, I'm just making sure I'm having a shot of bleach each day, just in case.
Yeah, I know. I'm working on getting that UV light down there. Like I feel like it's. I'm working on it. I've been YouTubing videos on how to get stuff down my throat. So.
Oh well, I've been trying to go the other way. I'm using a lot of moisturizer.
There's that spoiler. It takes a lot. It's a lot further than you'd think. There's a lot of tubes in there that just wind all around. Just go down the throat.
I reckon we've covered everything. I think we've done this. I think this is the podcast. This is the one.
Perfect. Yeah, I gotta go cook some food. I got and I'm not vegan, but I've got a gluten-free. Now here, this is the most California fucking shit in the world right here. I've got a gluten-free, dairy-free pizza that I'm going to be cooking tonight.
Nice.
It's not that bad. I'll say that. It's not good. Not good, but
Andrea,
it's not good. It's not
my partner, is one of those people who will eat literally anything, but across the whole spectrum. So there will be a day where she's eating some weird organ of an animal, but then the next day she'll be making like a pizza that's only like every ingredient is cauliflower. Like the base has been made out of cauliflower, and
oh, for sure. I'm right there. Yeah. See, my whole thing is I have allergies. I have I recently found out that I have a bunch of food allergies that have been plaguing me for my whole life and giving me stomach problems. And I finally got tested allergy wise, and it turned out that I'm allergic to so much shit. And I'm trying to, if I eat right, I don't shit my ass every
Damn, that's really upsetting.
Yeah.
So
I don't eat good tasting food anymore, but I don't liquidize my bowels.
I don't have joy anymore, but I don't have sadness. So
yes, it's the middle. I'm staying right in the middle. I'm just fine.
I'll leave this bit out of the podcast. I was with someone for 7 years who, for our entire relationship, she had an itchy asshole whole time.
Yeah,
like literally 7 years of her just being uncomfortable. And like, I think part of the reason we didn't last was because she was just always slightly annoyed. And I ran into her not long after we split up, and she'd found out she was allergic to tomatoes. She was like a different human being. I was doing it? Literally a different human being. She was chirpy. She was free of that itchy arsehole she'd had.
It's true. It's true. Like, outside of just the irritability, like just not having your body constantly reacting to something inside makes you sleep better. It fixes everything for sure.
Well, we've plugged your things. Is there anything else you want to get in?
Come back the Kickstarter, tapewormgame.com, or better yet, dickknots.com. I cannot believe I got that URL for $8. dickknots.com.
Wow. It was a bargain.
I know. And then hopefully later this year, if all goes well, Repentance will be dropping.
You got Repentance.
And after that, I will be working. Repentance.
Repentance, you just had Bumbo as well, so people should check out Bumbo. That was, 6 months ago? A bit longer than that.
A little longer than 6 months ago, like 8 months ago.
And then we might get Mugenics in the next decade.
Oh, you will. It will happen. I'm very proud of what we're working on right now.
It's been happening for a decade now, isn't it? Mugenics.
Well, technically, long story short, I was working on Mugenics when the Binding of Isaac started. The reason why I made the Binding of Isaac was to prototype some sort of roguelike.
Okay.
So I could get my feet in the water for Mugenics, which was going to be the bigger roguelike, the bigger ultimate random experience that I was going to do with Team Meat. But I was the only one who was really into doing it. So it stopped within 8 months. So we're pushing really hard. We're showing at places. And it was probably maybe 2 years from being finished. And nothing. And I couldn't do anything about it until much later when I left the company. Now I'm working on it with Tyler Glale, who programmed The End Is Nigh. Mm-hmm. And we've been working on and off for about a year now. He's been mostly doing foundational stuff like programming the engine and
Genetics.
it's already at a place that's it's already at a place that's really good, and I think it's going to be great. But yeah, it'll probably be a few years out, but it'll be impossible to miss because I will be pushing the fuck out of it when it finally hits.
Speaking as someone who's just spent the last 45 days trying to grow hybrid flowers in Animal Crossing, I'm in. I'm in already, you know?
Sounds good.
Well, that, my friends, was bloody great. I really enjoyed that. But being such a fanboy, I have no way to be objective about it. And because Andrea is such a fanboy fangirl, I think she's a girl. We've not kissed yet after 6 years. We're saving that for the 7-year anniversary. I don't mind either way, to be fair. She's fun. I think that's all that matters. But yeah, because she's such a fan, she can't be objective. So I have no clue as to whether this was good or bad. I think it was great. But definitely go check out the Kickstarter. Check out all of Edmund's work. But he seemed so excited about what physical real-world games can do from the player social point of view, but also from the creative standpoint, the immediacy of the creation. Yeah, definitely worth checking it out. And Andrea's already bought it. She bought the pink box, so I think maybe not the base tier, the one up. I don't know. She spent like $70 on some cake the other day, so I don't really know what's going on in her mind. But yeah, so I look forward to getting to play it in 2022 when the lockdown's over. Thank you once again for coming by and humouring my nonsense. It does a lot for my mental health. I'm going to make this outro all about me, but it's stressful, this world of ours. I don't know if you guys have noticed. I think some of you are waking up to this world is a bit of a pain in the dick, you know? And because I'm a fairly isolated person, having these moments where I get to talk to another human being, for some reason, I don't know, it's good. It's almost like humans are some form of social animal. I don't know. Although cats are better than people. Let's just accept that. Cats are better than people. Don't even at me. But at me, because social media engagement is what I live for. I have nothing else to say. Next episode, 2 weeks' time. Don't know who it is. I've got an idea, guys. But I haven't asked them yet. I'll do it now, shall I? I'll send them an email now. Did you hit the review button? Did you give me a score out of 5? It's 5, by the way, in your podcast app yet. You're meant to do that. You're also meant to write reviews. But don't write anything bad. Like, just say good things. Like, Dan's time management was excellent. And things like that. If you've got nothing good to say, he was always prompt with the delivery of his podcast, you know? And things like that. It'll be great. A bit of passive-aggressive podcast reviewing. I don't know how many of you get to this point. Like, genuinely, like, I rarely get to the outro of a podcast. When the chat ends, I don't think I've ever listened to an outro. So, yeah, let me know if you get here. The magic word, the secret magic word is aubergine. Okay? Work that into a sentence with me. Anyway, I'll fuck off. Should I? I should just go. Anyway, have a lovely one. Stay well, stay safe, and stay the fuck indoors. Peace! I haven't said peace like that in ages. I enjoyed it. Bye.